welcome to Scary World Pod. Today we have our guest.
I'm Carmen, aka Roger Bikes.
Slay, 2 names. We're going to get into that momentarily. But yeah, welcome to the show, Carmen.
Thanks for having
Slay.
me.
I'm so happy that you said yes and like actually are willing to talk to me about like a subject that a lot of people are not ready to be so candid about. And not ready to, like, at the very least, have their own experience that they're allowed, that they, like, allow themselves to share with everybody.
Well, I was, like, really surprised that you actually messaged me. I'm not usually someone that people go to for much of anything anymore, besides, like, snacks. Slay. I'm glad I can bring you out of your,
Yeah,
it was fun. I was, like, excited.
I'm so happy about that. So you have 2 names, kind-of-ish.
Kind
in
of,
the
yeah.
zeitgeist of, like, our local worlds. But, yeah, tell us a little bit about, like, you know, your background of that. And,
Okay, so the names. So I feel like I should start with my birth name. My birth name is Carmen. My middle name is Dolores. We don't have to talk about my last name. That's who I am at work. That's who I am to the government. That's who I am, I guess, it feels like a small select few, because then socially it's been Roger Bikes for a couple years. It's on all my socials. That used to be my band name, and that's just the coolest name I've ever come up with. So, and it was legally my name for like 2 years.
So you got it like legally changed, and then you legally changed it
It
back.
was legally Roger Lee, not Bikes, because they told me if I tried to change my last name, that'd be like erasing my ancestry. That's literally what they told me. So I was like, all right, whatever, Roger Lee.
It's just so that they can track you down by the government easier. It's literally that.
Pretty much. But then I ended up changing it back to like my regular birth name, and now, but I still use Roger Bikes for everything.
Yeah.
Socially, at least.
So when you go out, do you like introduce yourself as like Roger Bikes, or like do people DM you about it?
No, but funnily enough, I've gone out and people are like, yeah, but I still know you as Roger Bikes because that's what you are on Instagram. And I'm like, all right, that's cool.
And do you accept that, or is that like dead name kind of to you, or like?
I think it's fun. I think it's funny. It's fine. I wouldn't use it if it bothered me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's technically like still a part of you.
It is.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know how to, because these are all very personal questions. So it's like, I don't know what order to put it in. It's like, boom, this tragic thing happened to you. Boom, this crazy thing happened to you. Boom, like, it's very like personal. But you know what? I'm just gonna go for it. So let's actually talk about gender, because I think that just kind of ties into
the name
that pretty well with the name. And do you still like consider yourself like kind of gender fluid, or like where how do you like see yourself, or do you not know like that's an okay thing too?
Well, I guess with gender fluidity, the whole point is that it's really not permanent. So I think if there ever was a time where I considered myself gender fluid, it would make sense that there's certain times where I feel one way and I'm very in it. Like I could say right now, I really have no thoughts of going anywhere else besides cis female. But then there were times in my life where I felt totally different. So who's to say in like 5 years, I'm like, this isn't right.
Yeah.
And maybe there's something else for me.
But you're like completely open to that journey still. Like you're not like hating like your old self or the old self, or
No. And I think now that it's kind of not at the forefront of my mind all the time, I'm kind of at peace with it, and I'm at peace with at least that part of myself, and I'm open to wherever it could go, because life's really long, and I think it's okay to want to be different things, or at least try out different versions of yourself.
Absolutely. Would you go as far as to call it like an era?
An era
for yourself? Would you
like,
call it as silly as that?
Why not though? And like sometimes I'm like, well, I'm not obviously Madonna, but if you look at people who are like super public figures, you could be like, well, there was this era of them and that's how they were dressing and that's what they were kind of doing. It's like, why can't we have that too, even though we're not on the cover of magazines?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in my whatever era.
I guess Carbon Mom divorced era.
Yeah.
Which is a sleigh. Every layer of it is a sleigh.
Yeah, I'm in my 30, flirty and thriving, even though I'm not 30. I don't know what to call this era. I'm like crawling out of a well. Crawling out of a well era. Learning how to file taxes on my own era.
Is it bad? I'm just like picturing like The Ring. Like,
that's what you
like
should
Samara.
be picturing. The Ring.
I'm on the right track.
Yes.
It feels like a horror movie, just crawling out of a VHS player.
Yeah.
Type of vibe.
Occasionally I'll like fall back in, but I'm like really trying to get out of it.
I'm not falling out of the well and back in the well.
Yeah, I gotta.
And out of the well again.
That's how it is sometimes.
We live. Title of episode: Falling in and out of the well.
Falling in and out of the well, sometimes voluntarily. Like sometimes you just have to, like, you know what? Maybe I don't want to get out. It was nice down there. It's dark. At least I knew it was dark.
The certainty of the falling in and out of the well.
Yeah, there's some stability in that for sure. The chaos.
So detransitioning, I suppose, because I think like that's also made into like such a big deal in like, I guess, the discourse of the trans community and I guess trans community at large.
Yeah,
we can call it, as corny as that string of words is together and depersonalized as that is. But like, was it hard for you? Was there also like maybe like a self-validation portion of that, or like what was that? Was it a struggle or was it easy?
So like the detransition process.
Not just the detransition process, but also like the psychology of it for yourself too, as well. Like, I mean, I'm sure you can share physically, but also like, mentally for yourself, like coming to that conclusion of like, oh, maybe I should, stop transitioning, or, or never go back, or
I feel like the climax with my transition and detransition was both in like pre-COVID, COVID times, and this was all around the time that I got pregnant. And the original plan was to, go through the pregnancy and then just like go right back into taking hormones and, just living the life as a transgender male. And then I almost felt like the idea of detransitioning would be like giving up or like failing.
Yeah.
But it just started to feel like what was most natural to me, like to just stop messing with my body. And then going through pregnancy, you go through all these really beautiful changes within yourself, hormonal and like your psyche, and just feeling all these things that you've never felt before. And then on top of that, finding out that I was having a daughter, it just kind of like clicked for me.
Yeah.
And I just started naturally falling back into that role. And then after she was born, just that maternal instinct kicked in, and I just related to her and bonded to her in that way. And I started to just see it more as like a feminine energy and a male energy. And definitely during that time, the female energy just made the most sense for me.
Absolutely. I know you also have a boy as well.
I do.
So did that also maybe like change anything for you as well with that, or?
I mean, I just think there are natural differences, and I know that's like also taboo because everyone kind of wants to mix them all together and be like, well, nothing has a definition and everything can be, what it is. But I do think there are natural energies that humans have, and obviously even in nature you see that.
Of course.
I think that with having a daughter, there were so many things about being female that I just hated and I found uncomfortable and disgust with.
Like what?
Just, it was almost like the way that males perceive you and how sexual it is and like objectifying, and how you have to be almost like appealing to them before you're taken as anything else.
Yeah.
And with part of, I think, being transgender, I was almost like erasing that, you know, like binding of the chest, cutting the hair off, taking away anything that men would like or find pretty. I wanted to erase it so I could just be like a person and do what I want and like not even have to think about that. And
so it was like kind of like a control.
Yeah, I think so.
A little bit.
I think so. And but then when I found out that I was having a girl, I started to find all these parts of myself like powerful and strong, and admiring them and just valuing them and being like, you know what, that shouldn't be something that I'm running from. And there were times after I had her where I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, I should go back to that, like go back to like cutting my hair and, you know, doing all that. And like, am I really ready to give up Roger bikes?
Yeah.
And then I got pregnant again. And now I have my son. I like knew from the start that I was going to have a boy.
Aw.
And I think the difference there was, I don't know. I guess I relate to him, but it is just different.
Yeah.
Just.
And I mean, your kids are still young, so
they are
it's
still
like,
young, yeah.
You know, they're not like fully, I guess, cooked, you know,
Cooked
in their maturity. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really just like the very basic human characteristics that you could kind of relate to or not. But I think still having him, I just also still felt like a mom.
Yeah.
And I don't think that I could be like a male individual in his life that he looks up to. Like, I wanted to nurture him in that way.
Yeah.
And that just felt right to me. And being a mom just felt right to me.
Oh, that's amazing. No, I'm like really enlightened because I haven't reached like, you know, not to say that like I won't reach motherhood at any point, but like, or parenthood, whatever, you know. But it's always enlightening, like talking to like my friends that are around like my age, who like have like these like such beautiful, you know, anecdotes about like motherhood and, you know, not complaining like it ruined my life, never do it, it's horrible, it's horrific, you know. It's just kind of like also like really sharing that like, you know, beautiful part of it is like so like, I guess, calming in a way. I mean, it's like I feel like people are just so scared of like parenthood as well. I mean, like not just marriage, but like parenthood as well, like just growing up and being, you know, doing something other than themselves.
Well, there's definitely times where I do think like, oh my God, this ruined my life.
Yeah.
But I think that's also normal. And
Yeah,
I definitely, looking back, like suddenly becoming someone's parent just from the second that I found out I was pregnant compared to what my life was the day before was intensely drastic. And I never planned on having kids that young, even though in the grand scheme of things I was like 22, so it's not like that young. But
it's still like in your early, at least in this day and age, in the year of our Lord, the 2020s, having children in your early 20s is not as common as it used to be.
Yeah, I think the big part for me is I feel like I missed out on finding like true independence first, and there are a couple things that I wish I would have had established before I had kids. But I also think that because I didn't have that like fire on my ass of like get your shit together, I would have just kind of lazed about and like let it ride out. And I think that having kids kind of like sobered me. Like it woke me up and it made me. And I mean, I'm still learning every day. I'm not perfect at all, and it's always a battle like every day, but
well, you learn something new every day.
Yeah, you do.
You know, but I think that's beautiful, because like if it's not like in a sense, like some people, like their career is their baby, kind of, you know, and not everybody has to be like that. Like I think girl boss dumb has really kind of like made people, like, I mean, in a good way, step up and like stand up for themselves in like a very hostile, like political work climate. But at the same time, it kind of like really erased the role of like where does family in general fall into that, like not just being a wife, not just being a mother, but also just appreciating family as a value, and having a community that is beyond, you know, something as like stone cold as like a work environment and making money. Because like, you know, too many offices are like, oh, we're a family here, and it's like, no, because that doesn't compare. No, because that doesn't compare to having a real family in a real village, and you know that's kind of like the way that like I think society is supposed to operate, is in villages.
It's crazy you bring that up, because I think that there was a really big moment for me right before I got pregnant where I kind of split off from a group of people that I had been friends with for a while, and I think I mean, I'm not going to like speak for them, but I do think a big difference was like I always really wanted that normalcy. Like I really wanted stability with family, and like I wanted to have kids and stuff. And I remember a big conversation I had with one of my friends was like, I would like love to have a kid. Like if I got pregnant right now, like I know that I would just feel this like great joy, and they just didn't, and they just wanted, like you were saying,
like they got bored.
I don't know, I guess they just wanted like the craziness and the adventure, and like you were saying, like the girl boss type of life, like all that stuff. And I've always really thought that family was important, and I grew up in like a really close-knit family, and like that you can have everything in the world, but those little moments and those connections and those bonds are so priceless.
Right.
And I'm happy that I got it, because maybe I wouldn't be able to get it later on. Like maybe it needed to happen at that moment, and you know.
And I guess like your family's very like supportive, and your ex's family is supportive, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that my mom has always wanted to be a grandma.
Oh well.
Like so, I mean
that kind of helps.
Yeah, it does.
Like my parents, I feel like would like disown me if I accidentally got pregnant. Like, I don't know what they would do to me.
I think my mom's biggest issue with me, with like the whole gender thing, was she was like, well, are you gonna be able to have kids? And that was like something that she really wanted.
Yeah.
And I just try not to be upset with the timing of things, even though like sometimes I'm like, I feel like I'm wasting my 20s. I could be like at the club, but
yeah. I think I said this like before, like when we were talking before we started casting. Like women can have everything, but not all at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's something that like it gripes me, because I know like dudes can have it all at the same time, but then again they can't. They choose to, but not at the risk of something going to the wayside that people are going to penalize them for on a social level. And they'll be like, well then I'm just gonna like socially take myself out, and you know what, then you'll never see me, and you know, like the lone wolfdom of masculinity, I think, has really taken a toll on like society a little bit. And it's not like all just men. I think people in general are kind of like very like lone wolfy right now.
Yeah, people are like afraid to need other people.
Yeah, it's just a lot of the men in my life are very lone wolfy.
Yeah, I agree. Currently. They don't want to be there for other people.
They find it like very burdensome, I feel like. When the thing is, it's like, I feel like women and feminine energies are very like pushed into like having to take care of people, or helping kind of like nurture people's like psyches and making them feel good about themselves in some way. And like I feel like when guys are put into that same kind of boat, they try it out for a little bit and say, okay, I'll try, and then they give up because they're like, oh, this is just too much work. And it's like, okay, well, if I said this is too much work, there's already a grave dug for me somewhere to throw me in if I just gave up on myself and everyone around me. Like,
yeah, women do tend, especially in like families and like marriages. Yeah.
Let's actually go into that.
Okay.
I've been stalling long enough. So, you married young, you divorced young. You're like low-key a single mom.
Low-key.
Low-key, high-key.
Low-key, high-key. It's my entire personality, yes.
So how was that journey of being a single mom? I know like your ex like was in the military or is still in the military, so you kind of like had a lot of like months, from what I understand,
being a single
basically
mom
being a single mom already.
Single mom, yeah. What's crazy is I always think about this one picture I drew when I was 15, and I was joking around with my friend, and we were drawing what our lives would be in the future, and I drew myself as a single mom.
No way.
Yeah. My parents got divorced or split up when I was in 8th grade, and I just saw my mom do it, and in a way I almost aspired for that because she could do whatever she wanted without having to worry about my dad's feelings or approval. And I was like, that's just so nice. And I really saw her at peace with motherhood and with herself without him. And I just kind of knew how tedious it was to be with a man because they're so quick.
Yeah.
They're so quick to switch on you, and then everything can crumble. And I think just in general, it's hard to find someone who's like really all there for you and like wants the best and puts the family first, even when your relationship is bad. But so many times, you know, everything's great, and then, you know, a flip switches, and now they're all for themselves, and they don't really care if they're going to bring you or the kids down. So I like low-key always wanted to be a single mom just because I didn't want to have to answer to anyone. But I still had that dream. I fell in love with my ex like super fast, and it was at the time where I was living life as like a transgender male, and we were in a band together, and we were like kind of what I felt was like at the top of the world.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It just happened, and it felt right. And I ended up getting pregnant, and
I didn't even know you could still get pregnant after being 2 years on T.
I was only 8 months.
Oh, it was only 8.
It was only 8 months, but it started to work fast.
Yeah.
Like I felt like I was.
You're like a tiny person. I don't know if that has any effect.
Yeah, maybe, and like I kind of just looked like a teenage boy.
Which is still a vibe.
It was a vibe. Okay. I think I was like starting to like.
I thought you were a cutie as a boy. You were passing.
I was 100% passing.
Yeah, not that you're supposed to celebrate, you know, people passing, but I thought you were still passing as like because also you were still in your early 20s. Like a lot of guys still kind of did look like
Twinkie.
Young. Yeah, Twinkie.
I was totally pulling the twink
you were like an adorable twink though, like straight up. Yeah.
I definitely. I can't imagine my early 20s any other way though. Like it felt so right at the time. I don't know if I'd be able to be anything other than I was. I was just like doing my thing, and like it was crazy because like right as I started to like really pass and like really like feel comfortable, I was like starting to do comedy and like doing things I loved, and then I got pregnant. But I didn't know that I could get pregnant. I thought that I would have to stop.
Yeah.
And then I did. I found out I was pregnant, and then I stopped.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So you didn't fight it at all. You were like, oh, I'm taking this as a blessing, or.
I was so excited when I saw
those
2 pink lines. Yeah. What's crazy was, I think that I might have stopped for like a couple weeks, but it was like.
Like, were you and your partner at the time like trying?
We were like.
Were you just like not giving a fuck and going for it?
I
Or
don't
did he
know.
just think you couldn't get pregnant anymore because you were on T for
No,
like...
we were like, we should try and have a baby. Like, so we started dating like the end of August, and we were like, let's try having a baby in like January. And we thought like, we were like, this is it. We had so many conversations where we were like, I think we're gonna get married.
You thought you were ready, yeah, for real.
We were like in love, and I was like, all right, I'll stop going on testosterone. Like, we'll do our thing. We'll save up money. We had it all figured out. And I started to like not feel good all the time. And I thought it was me getting like my menstrual cycle back because it was like away.
Yeah.
Turned out I was pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah. And I had been like a month pregnant before I found out.
Yeah.
So I was so excited. I think I like always dreamt of that moment. It was just like nothing else mattered. And I took the test in the bathroom. I got home from work, and I was like, holy shit. Like, I was like freaking out. I like ran upstairs and told my mom. We like went to the store. I got more tests, and they were like all positive. And then I like rushed to go see my ex, and I told him in person, and I was like,
Aww.
this is happening.
Do you think like your gender expression got in the way of like you guys liking each other in the same way? Like, was that a factor?
I've thought about that. Because
I don't know if you guys ever had that conversation.
We
with
have
each
had that
other.
conversation, and he like says no, but I do just think like,
because like he fell in love with you, I guess, as a guy.
Yeah.
As a twink.
As a twink. And I remember people would ask us, because he was like pretty open about the fact that he was in a relationship with someone who was trans, and he was like, well, yeah, like he's much more himself now and like a totally different person. And like, I don't know. I think I definitely felt the disconnect start to happen while I was pregnant, which is unfortunate. My mind was in like one place, and I just felt really far away from him. And I don't know if it just, we didn't establish enough of a foundation together before jumping into parenthood. And then there was just all these other technicalities of like supporting the kid and like our situations. So, and then also like, you're like merging your families together, so you can't really like escape that. And like I said, like establishing a foundation with a person and like getting to know the 360 before you start your own family.
Were you like the first queer person that they were with, or?
That I don't know.
Oh,
that I really don't know.
Because it was like maybe, I don't know, like, I mean, it's probably like silly to just like ponder on shit like that all the time, but it's like, I'm very interested in like sociology and like the psychology of like, you know, just attraction in general. And like maybe he just like liked dudes or
I felt
like, do you feel like your personality maybe like changed a little bit too, like as you like reached more into like the feminine sides of yourself?
I mean, definitely. I definitely changed. But I also think it had less to do with like the gender and maybe more to do with like becoming a parent. And like it was not really fun and games anymore, and I started to kind of try.
It was more of like a growing up responsibility.
More like
thing.
growing up, and then also like holding each other accountable for things and like responsibility, and like I wasn't really that fun person anymore, and like touching upon uncomfortable topics and like starting conflict and stuff, and I just don't think that he really
he wasn't ready for that.
I don't know if he was ready for that, and I think that what's my thing, especially now, it's like you need to see how you argue with someone. I think that's more important than how you get along with them if you're going to be with them forever. Like, I really do think that. I think that when everything's perfect in the beginning, like, great, but like start a fight for fun and see how they respond.
Wait, that's such a hot take.
See how, because
start a fight for fun.
It could be over anything, because you need to see how this person is gonna fix the situation, because fights happen, and if one fight makes it all fall down, that's never gonna last.
Yeah, but also it's like, do you think maybe like there's also like just like practicing how to be in conflict as well, and like or also I've started thinking about it because I've been in 2 very long-term relationships where like I accept that like I didn't learn growing up like how to really resolve a conflict more in the way of like, well, I'm right and you just have to accept it.
Yeah.
Like there's more, you know, and then the other party just like throws their hands to the sky and goes, well, you know what? Fine. You know, like like what if both parties don't give in? Then that's where the skill really kind of like shines of like okay, in this moment, what does my partner need from me? What do I need from my partner that I should be asking of them as well? Like there are moments where people, I think, need to learn how to be soft, and that doesn't necessarily mean weak.
Yeah.
It means, I think, being emotionally nurturing in a way that's not condescending, but lowers tensions to get to the crux of an issue.
Yeah.
And that's a real skill that I think a lot of people don't have, or if they ever learn it, it's too fucking late. And they've already broken the things that they could have fixed.
Yeah. And I also think, like, you just have to also be open to accepting that there are problems. There are people who try to, you know, put Band-Aids on things. And I think that was more on my ex's side. And, like, I'm someone who likes to get in and, like, see the damage and, like, peek through it and be nasty and stuff. And I am not saying I'm perfect at all. Like, when I argue, I can get gross and mean and
I'm such a cunt, like, for real. Like, I will not sugarcoat it. Like, I am a bitch, like, for real.
I can, but it's coming from a place of deep concern and hurt and maybe past experiences, and I don't want things to get as bad as they are in my head. But if you're not willing to go there with me and you're not willing to see all angles, like, then it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, it's bullshit. And if you're just willing to, like, you want to turn a blind eye to things and not see the reality, like, that's not parenthood. Like, that's not going to work for me in a partnership. And I think a lot of our issues had more to do with that than so much of the gender stuff. Then he joined the Navy. Yeah. So you had your first kid before you got married. Before I got married, yeah.
And then did you guys like break up once and then get back together and then choose to get married? I don't know what the timeline was.
So the timeline was...
I'm a creeper. This is all from me, like, watching her Instagram over the years. and lurking, because I love a story.
The lore. So, I mean, yeah, we started having issues maybe around the time that our daughter was like 6 months. And I wanted to get married. I literally, like, I wanted a fucking fairy tale.
Period.
I wanted him to...
We all do.
I literally wanted to, like, pop this baby out and have him have an engagement ring. I wanted to get married. I wanted to, like, be swept up.
Like, on the birthing bed, like, oh, he just popped out our child, marry me.
Yeah, like, I literally wanted that. Like, I was imagining all these things.
And you know what? Like, if for the men that are listening and the girlies, but mostly the men because y'all suck, this is what we want. This is what your partners want.
Yes. Like, I wanted him to be
come to the bedside with flowers.
Yes.
And a ring and
letters.
A bracelet and, like, a silver spoon from Tiffany's.
Literally.
Period.
And I think that I was getting, like, none of it. I felt like we just weren't in the same book.
Yeah.
I was in a fairy tale. He was in, like, a comic book somewhere. Like,
You were in Cinderella. He was in Shrek, but not, like, the good parts of it.
Not even the good parts of Shrek. And, like, this is, I mean, I hope that he finds his story one day, whatever it shall be. And, like, I'm so grateful that we did connect and have our children. And, like, he's obviously has great genes because our children are great looking.
Yeah. And, I mean, you know, aside from your parents, like he is, like, a sweet, like, he's a good person at the despite like, you know, your personal marital struggles. Like he's not an evil dude or anything terrible. It just,
I just think that there's really big differences between us, and I felt like I was way more in it in that sense than him, and we got engaged, but it was just never what I wanted. And like when you feel like something's just not really genuine or like coming straight from the heart, it's just there. They don't have to say it. You feel
it, you see it in their eye.
I felt like I was forcing him to do all this, and then I really just felt like I was pulling the leash, like, and he was just kind of doing what he felt like I wanted. And I do think that he did want to make it work, but I just don't know if his heart was really, I just don't know if we were really like in love like that. But I just wanted all that.
Did you feel like you forced him to have a kid, or up in the air?
Do I feel like I mean, you can't
up
really
in the air. You can't force somebody, obviously, but like, do you think like you heavily like we're like, this is what I really want, and he just kind of like gave in, or
I don't know. No, I think for some reason he
like things changed, but at the time, like you guys were like both in agreement. Like you didn't feel like you were pushing him to do it.
No,
like,
I don't think that I was
like
pushing
you guys
him.
both wanted it.
Yeah, I felt like at that part we were definitely like, we both wanted that, and we were like both really excited. I really just think that as it started to get more real and I like got more and more pregnant, he was a little bit like, I don't know, but he never like left. He was like always there, but just because someone's there doesn't necessarily mean that you feel them.
I feel like the way that dudes like change during like a woman's pregnancy, like I feel like that needs to be studied.
It literally needs to be studied,
because they don't go through any physical changes themselves, but they just like they watch like their lady go through this like journey, and like everyone reacts different, I guess. Like I've seen some dudes, you know, like heavily start to like revere women in this like god kind of way, and like some guys become very selfish, like other dudes become very selfish about it and are like, oh well, I guess I'm not the center of the world as much as I thought I was.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm not a guy, but I wish I knew somebody that had insight on that. I don't know. If you're a guy that has insight on that, please hit me up so I can interview you for my podcast.
I felt like I was going through like super crazy internal like turmoil almost, and like unpacking trauma all the time when I was pregnant. And I felt like he was just kind of chilling.
Yeah.
And I was like, aren't you like going insane and like over planning and like thinking about everything? And then on top of that, COVID happened.
Yeah.
And it was,
so you just kind of shut down a little bit.
I felt like he was very shut down, and I just like wasn't sure where he was at with a lot of things. Meanwhile, I was over here like, am I a man or am I a Muppet? Like,
it always comes back to the Muppets.
It literally always comes back to the Muppets.
I swear to God.
But essentially, we got engaged, we called it off, and then, but he still wouldn't like leave me alone. So I was like, maybe it's time to like, he mentioned something about like, if I was in the Navy, we would have this and we would have that. And I was like, so just join the Navy. And he was like, really? And I was like at this point, yes.
Yeah, get out of here, Skipper.
Pretty much. And then we got married very fast. I barely remember our wedding. But I think even then, something just told me that this wasn't going to be forever, but it was for right now. And what I felt in the moment was like that it was the right thing to do.
Right.
And then I literally got pregnant again. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, but. And then pretty much after we got married, I felt like he was gone for a long time.
The husband literally went off to war.
Literally, I felt like my husband went off to war. I was doing everything by myself. I just felt like I was like treading water instead of enjoying what's supposed to be like the best times of your life, like when your kid is a baby and all that. And I still feel like that. And I'm like, when am I going to get it right? Literally, like, when am I going to just get it right? And then you always look back in hindsight and you're like, that wasn't so bad. I don't know. I think I'll like be one of those people that are just like I just like always need chaos.
Well, you know what the positive is? You're going to be like that young, like, gilf, you know, like MILF gilf.
MILF gilf?
Yeah.
I have no desire to be a grandma, though.
Really?
I don't want my daughter to do that.
I don't know if my parents want to be a grandmother either.
I knew that my mom wanted to be a grandma. I don't want to be a grandma.
Yeah.
Like, I think that a part of my mom always wanted me to be what she didn't get to be, which was like, she always wanted to be like a powerful, like, single mom. And just a powerful, like, woman in general who could hold her own.
Yeah.
And I think that's what she wanted for me. And I think that she kind of manifested this for me. But from the start, I never saw my daughter and was like, one day I want you to, like, be a mom. Like, I want my daughter to, like,
enjoy being a kid and like, growing up in a lot of ways that you didn't get to, I guess.
I want her to, like, really enjoy life.
Youth. Yeah.
And do all the things that I've like dreamt of doing.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy how I think that does work for some people. I think that like our parents do manifest certain dreams for us, and then some people like try so hard to fight against it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But
that is such a deep like
it's
like
such
which is like an esoteric, I think, like brujeria, like
that's how I see my timeline, because I know like I was saying before, like my family is from Mexico, and like my grandmother is literally a mom. I mean, she's not with us any longer, like RIP, but she is from like the slums of Mexico, had 8 kids.
Yeah.
And her husband was like super abusive, and like a lot of what was going on was just like not consensual, and she was just bred to be this like mom, and then he died, and then she got to be a single mom and kind of like make it all happen on her own. And my mom's the youngest of 8, and she grew up seeing that. And I think that like she would always tell me like she saw her mom do it on her own.
Yeah.
And I think that she kind of low-key always wanted that. And now, you know, she's remarried and everything, but
Slay.
Yeah,
She's
no,
remarried.
Slay.
Has she been remarried for a while, or is this like a newer development?
She got remarried the same year that I got pregnant, which is crazy.
Wow.
August 10th, 2019. And then I had to have gotten pregnant like early September.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I feel like since 2020, like, just energy has been like so...
It's been so different. And I can't tell, for me, I can't tell if it's because I didn't have kids or if it's because of just like the world, and I think it is a mixture of both.
Yeah. We're living in changing times. Yeah. Like, you know, when you go to Disney, I don't know if you've been to Disney, but they're like, Disney. Yeah, like then they talk about like, this is the turn of the century.
Yeah, this
like,
is the turn of the century.
Like we're living in the carousel of progress in like this like dangerously surreal kind of way, and we're all experiencing it and trying not to get crushed like everybody else in between the moving carousel.
What's crazy is my kids are having the time of their life.
But that's fucking amazing. Okay, but that's amazing. Honestly, having happy children is underrated.
It's underrated.
I'm gonna fucking say it. Having happy children is underrated. I was a very unhappy child all the time, and I'm pretty sure like that made my parents very unhappy for a long time, that I was like such an unhappy kid all of the time. And like, I'm happy now, and low-key I kind of like blame them a little bit, but at the same time, like, I take full responsibility for my own misery. I wasn't taking I wasn't like really putting in, I think, enough attention into like figuring out what happiness is for me in the first place. I should have been more resilient, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good that you can like put the blame on yourself. I think that, like, and not even as a slight, but like I do think there's some people
like
who
I could have made my own choice. There were a lot of choices that I personally could have made that I didn't have the courage. And, you know, like maybe I wasn't looking in the right places to like have courage, but I guess you find it. You've had to have a lot of courage, I think, in a lot of ways that I don't know if I deeply admire you for. Like, I don't know if I would have the courage to do half of the things, like half of the choices that you've had to make for yourself. I'm sorry if I make you cry, but I'm just like dead serious. Like, you know, like you have courage in a way that I don't know if I would have had the strength at your age to make. Well, because early 20s, like I'm in my late 20s now. I'm 28. You're like what, 26, 27, yeah. Like you had to make a lot of decisions like in your early 20s, and like people really discount like, oh, your 20s. Like, no, every year is really different. Like really different. Like some of the choices I even made this year are not choices that I would have made last year because I didn't have the confidence or the courage or the know-how that I did a whole 360 days ago.
Yeah.
It'd be like that.
It's a lot. You have to like do a lot of injury. But I'm still like, I still feel like I'm a mess. I mean, I am a mess. I'm going to be a mess until I'm like literally on my grave and my kids are like, that was my mom. Like, she was a mess. But I do.
She was a mess, but she was a queen. And that's where we stand. We stand that.
It's really easy. And especially now that like I'm a mom, I try so hard to break out of that, like, yo, like, fuck my parents, like, they made me so unhappy and they're the blame for everything, and like we're all just people, and this is like all our first life, and like they're just a little bit ahead, but like what the fuck do they know, and like what the fuck do I know? And also like just because I'm a mom, I'm still also only 27, and I'm still a person aside from being a mom. My kids don't see anything that's like going on in here and like going on in here. Like they just see like I'm there every day, we do what we gotta do. I like don't talk about them other than like Facebook, because I feel like Facebook's for the moms.
It is. It is. I only post like things like on Facebook like for my grandma. Literally just for my grandma to be like, oh, Cori, I saw you doing all of these like in things I don't understand what I'm looking at, but they look really cool, Cori. I hope you're making money and saving that money so that you can make sure you get your own house and everything you ever wanted. And I'm like, well, Grandma, what if I told you that it just looks cool and nothing else? As long as you're happy, Cori, I'm over the moon. And I like look like super like perfect, cool mom, and I'm like, you don't know that our bed is full of Cheerios because I let my kids like eat breakfast in bed. And like you would be the cool mom.
I guess I mean my kids love the shit out of me, and like that is something that
that's fucking beautiful.
That is beautiful. That's something that like I think that like if I never get anything else that I've ever like wanted, I think that God was like, here you go. Because that's just I mean the rest.
Let her have good fucking kids.
Let me have good kids.
Love her.
They're gonna be better than me. I mean they are. I think I have all the crazies so that they don't. Mom's drunk call too.
The sacrifices we make.
Yeah. Moms get messy. Like moms are a mess, but
we love moms.
My kids are like, they're super cool.
I fucking love that. All right. Marrying young and having kids young. We could tackle that together, separate. I don't know if that's a one entity for you. Do you recommend, not recommend? Everybody's different. Like, do you have any hard, hard
opinions on
Hard opinion on that?
No, I mean, I don't know if I have. Here's the thing. Like, I really wish that it was a simple answer. I think that the thing that gets in the way of the kid stuff mostly is the financials of it all and like those technicalities. I think that like my my parents, for example, they have my stepbrother and he's 11 and they're literally pushing 60.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, when's it too late sometimes too? So it's because
when is a good time to do any of this shit?
Yeah, like when is, I think like whatever kind of happens. And I know that there's also like a big community of people that's like, why would you bring kids into this world? And
have
like,
you had people say that to you? Like,
well, that's how my old friend group was. And I was very much fairy tale dreamland, and they're very much like living out of like suitcases in like studio apartments and like edgy and like smoking cigarettes and stuff like that, which was like what I used to do also.
Right.
But like that was, they wanted to like ride that out till the end, and like
the punk kids stay punk kids, and like some punks grow, you know, they mature a little bit.
I don't even think I was ever really genuinely a punk kid. Like I wanted to like hold hands and like find true love, and I was just kind of chasing the wrong crowd and like trying to fix people. And then in the process of like trying to fix people that just didn't have that in them, like I got broken. So yeah, there are those people who are like, yo, fuck that. But then I think it is kind of also even more punk rock to have hope.
Yeah.
Like, I think that
it's rare.
Despite the world constantly, like, kicking your ass and, like, knocking down everything, for you to, like, still be, like, army crawling your way out of the dark well, like, being like, no, like, I am going to make it, and I am going to give my kids a good life, and, like, I am going to get that dream, whether it's, like, going to kill me or not. Like, I think that that's who I am.
Yeah.
And that's what I want my kids to see, and I think, like, that's how I see.
So I guess the answer to the question is, like, let the vibes take over.
Yeah, let the vibes take over.
Let the vibes take over.
Definitely not for everyone, but, like, obviously it was for me, otherwise it wouldn't have happened to me.
Of course.
And then with marriage, some people, like, literally get married for fun. So
I know, for some people, marriage is literally a hobby. Marriage and divorce is a hobby for some girlies. I like love the idea of marriage. I wish I could have like a million weddings, and I'm constantly like, I want to get married. I want to do a blood oath wedding. I want to have a beach wedding. Oh my god, when you posted about your private. Oh, the blood oath wedding thing freaking killed me.
I love that. I just saw Nosferatu.
I think that actually solidified. I was like, oh, I gotta have Carmen on the show because there's the blood oath wedding.
Because how romantic, and like that movie alone is what I want. I love love. I've like, always loved love.
Traditional blood oath, like hands together, or like.
I think like how
what's
I
your
imagine
dream blood oath?
My dream blood oath wedding. It's actually such a romantic like concept if you like really think about like what people used to do. Like, how do I show you I love you? Like, let me like give you my blood like in a vial. Let's exchange it during our vows and wear it around our neck. And like that's crazy. That's romantic.
So it's like a prick on the finger, and then you fill the vial at the altar?
Yes. What's crazy is I hate blood. Like, I try to be cool and edgy and like I love blood, but like I was gagging and like covering my eyes watching this horror movie. Being like, oh! But here I am.
Trying not to peek the mic and laugh too loud.
Oh. But yeah, blood oath wedding, or like just a chill. I got married in a church. That was cool too.
Yeah, it's real chill.
That's so chill.
Okay.
Just do what you want, dude. And if you happen to get divorced, get divorced.
Everything's a sleigh.
Everything's kind of a sleigh. I mean,
you make it look so good. So honestly, I want to get married just so I can get divorced and be you and be fabulous and milfy and gorgeous.
I'm like not any of those things.
You are. Shut up.
Probably no one in my real life actually thinks that. I'm only cool on the internet.
No, they should. They should get better friends who think that you're a MILF.
I have like 2 friends, and I made both of them.
You should save that one. That's so good. Okay, so we're going to backtrack a little bit for discourse purposes.
Okay.
So as far as like people kind of like bringing up the idea of like detransitioning and stuff, do you think that there's like still room for that conversation? Is it like, because there's a lot of people that are like, oh, like they were fake the whole time, and like there's a lot of like negative stigma around like detransitioning. Some people even retransition as you were actually you were thinking of retransitioning at one point. Do you think that there's still like public room to have that be accepted and not like, I guess like pariah, like oh, you're trans, so you gotta be trans for the rest of your fucking life, and like I don't know, like and also like I guess to tack on, like, do you think that there's like portions of that where it's like, do you think that kind of like middle road fluidity could actually one day, I don't know, be accepted by people, or do you think everyone's just like too brain rotted? I know this is a very meaty
super meaty
question,
and like I almost feel like unqualified.
There's a lot of pieces.
Yeah,
but it's just an opinion. You don't have, it's not an overarching like whatever.
I think, well, here's like what I feel like the truth is. I think like the truth is a big majority of the world is pretty happy being either one or the other when it comes to male or female. Like I just think that's the hard cold facts, and people are trying to change those facts, but like that's just kind of how it always is. But that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with like exploring or feeling other ways.
Do you think there's like room for people to keep speaking about that publicly, like more so I guess like on an influencer front, like because I've seen a lot of people get like pushed back of like, oh, you're ruining it for the other trans people who are really hurting in society, and like they need to be heard, and it's like, well, just because somebody detransitioned or is retransitioning or whatever, it doesn't make them any less of a human being living a really human experience.
Well, I think like with detransitioners, I've noticed that they all come out with like this like really biblical, like, well, I found like God, and that was wrong, and that was not me, and it was almost like they're treating like the fact that they felt trans as like this poison. I've actually even listened to this podcast. It's like a Christian podcast who like they do talk to a detransitioner, and she like did make it out to be like that it was like the fucking like devil inside of her that like made her feel trans, and then she realized like
she exercised the transgender,
like pretty much
the trans agenda out of her body,
like pretty much. And I don't think that's like everyone's experience, but I think like that's the one that they push the most to like make it seem like being transgender is just like this cool trend. And I think it's like a million different things. Like I know at least 2 trans people that I went to school with, and one of them is like my best friend, who you could tell from like day one, like this person is not the gender they were born in. They just aren't. They're like totally the opposite. Like it just doesn't even make sense that they're in this body. And then when they transitioned, you could tell like that's who they were supposed to be. And like I know that there were certain like hormonal issues. They had like more testosterone in their body than like a biological female had, and like that just makes sense. And I think that people that are trans because of that reason feel like they're not being taken seriously, because there's also like the other side of it where it's more of like a choice and like a free-for-all and all that, and then that's where it gets murky with like, you know, who's allowed to get hormones and stuff, because that stuff, it is like, it can cause permanent changes, and like I've seen that firsthand with myself. And like,
could you share some of the permanent changes?
So like with my voice, for instance, like it made my voice deeper. I'll never be able to like get it back, even though I'm actually pretty comfortable with where it's at. Like I think it didn't go too far, and I mean that's pretty much it for me. I think some of like the acne I get that I like never really had before, like around here, and I'm pretty sure that's it.
Yeah, and that was just 8 months.
That was just 8 months.
Okay.
I mean, and then, but even in those 8 months, like I remember my hips like the shape changed, and like that's why I was passing more, and like my chest was like totally flat, and like the way my jaw was kind of shaping out, and like just the hair that I was like getting, like it happens really fast. And like the what ifs, like what if I kept going, then one day I was like, oh my god, like what have I done? And I know people fight so hard for, you know, trans people to get
the care that they need,
the care that they
want.
But I also, at the same time, like I think it's important to also make them aware of the changes, and it's like really touchy, it's really taboo, and there are like statistically a lot of people who come back and they regret it, and I think that's okay too. And it's
because it's also like you can't pick and choose cosmetically like what your boy's self is going to like entail. Like you can have like hair in like places that you never even thought you would, and like some people are like, oh my god, I'm like losing my hair.
A lot of them lose their hair.
A lot of people lose their hair, and it's like, well, did you look at your dad? Did you look at your mom's dad?
Everyone wanted to be a cool twink, but
everyone wants to be a cool
everyone
twink,
wants
but
to be a cool
genetically
twink.
you don't always turn into a twink.
No, and then they're like, oh fuck, like I want to go back. That's why it's like, and I it's crazy. Like I see both sides. I know why people are like very, because that's also like your baby too. I mean, like I'm looking at like my daughter, and like one day she wants to do that, and it's like, aside from the fact that like she was born female, there's just little things about her that I'm like, that's gonna either go away forever or change completely, and that's scary. You know, just to think about. Just like I know how my mom felt about me, and it's just like scary.
And you see it from the other.
I see it from the other end, but then, you know, obviously people have the free will. Like you should be allowed to want what you want. And it's just like,
because like even when I've like dabbled with the idea of that, like I've played with like my gender expression and stuff multiple times over years, and like I'll have like eras of like wanting to be more masculine and like you know, like binding my chest. Like people had no idea I had breasts for at least a good year because I was just binding like you know, super like but like I did think about it, and I pondered it, and I was like, if I became like if I transitioned like medically at all, I'm like, because I see other you know, trans people in my life, and or just like, you know, in passing and stuff. I hang out in a lot of gay clubs, and like, you know, I'm part of the queer community, and like a lot of them they're older, like they're in their 30s, but they're gonna look like a teenage boy, you know, forever. Like they like, you know, Justin Bieber core, like straight up, which is dope in its own right, but like I don't know if I would want to look like Justin Bieber if I transitioned to a boy.
It's just, it's really,
because that's what I would look like. I'm so tiny. I'm 4'11".
I know.
You know, like, like I would be just a teenage boy, and then growing up, like, what would I be, a 40-year-old teenage boy? Nothing against it, but I just don't think aesthetically that would make me happy in the long term. So kind of like figuring that out for myself in a time when I was figuring that out, I think is definitely something that a lot of people don't really think. I don't know if you thought about that, like when you were,
Well, I remember being like, I can't imagine myself going the rest of my life as a woman. I was like, I just need to be a man. And I feel like we didn't even really talk so much about like what I think being transgender was for me. Like, I know I had thoughts when I was younger, like sometimes I would like want to play as a boy character, and I really liked that like energy, that masculine energy, but like pretty much I was like pretty girly. And then in high school I started to kind of experiment again, like be a little bit, I remember I always used to say with like my one friend, like, I'm not a real girl. And I was like super into like indie bands and like hippie type of stuff.
Not like the other girls.
I was like vibe. So cool and so edgy. And then I started dating someone when I was 15, and like then he was like the rock star, and he was like the edgy cool one. So I was just kind of like the side girlfriend.
Yeah, the groupie.
Yeah. And I kind of played that role for a while, and I was like with a group of guys all the time who like played guitar and had long hair, and like I couldn't be the one to play guitar and have long hair.
Honestly, that is so real.
So once I like got out of that relationship, I don't know. I think I just went like buck wild. I was like, you know what? I'm tired of it. I just started to like kind of tap back into like this like masculine energy. I was just really tired of men. Like I started to only date women. I wanted to be like,
you wanted to be rock star boyfriend.
I wanted to be the rock star boyfriend.
Yeah.
I did want to be the rock star boyfriend, and I loved it. And I honestly had a great time, and it felt right for the moment. And like, I loved it so much. And people always ask me like, what does testosterone feel like? It feels fucking great. You're like never anxious.
Oh, I'm sure. I have friends, you know, cis, non-cis that are on testosterone. It fucking makes them feel tops. Is it the best for their body the way they take it? I don't fucking know. But they say it makes them feel like fucking Superman, so.
Well, it's like a steroid.
It is steroids, yeah.
Yeah, so like, yeah, you feel fucking great and like euphoric and like horny and hungry and sweaty and
that's kind of hot. I love that.
Yeah, horny, hungry, sweaty. That was kind of the vibes. And I had a great time and it felt right for the moment. I do think.
Do you miss it?
What?
Do you miss it?
I don't think I miss it, but I'm glad that I had it. Like, I'm kind of over it now. I don't really miss it. I also think that it was almost like a coping with like a lot of the trauma that I had gone through, and it was just who I needed to be at that time, maybe to get to the next level of my life. I don't like really think I'll ever go through a phase like that again. But I just think like generally I am just like a fluid, open person. Like I don't really think about it that much. I'm just open to whatever.
You've always been that way.
Is what
it is.
It just kind of is what it is. But at that time I was like super strict on like the labels and like wearing the pins and like correcting people and like going to the fucking courthouse and changing my name. Like I am Roger. Yeah. And now people call me that and I'm like, wait, that's not my name.
Yeah. Do you still respond to Roger, like when people on the street are like, Roger Bikes?
Well, no one ever sees me on the street, so.
That's true. You're busy.
I'm busy. Booked busy. And I actually went to a pride parade, and you know who got called out? My son.
What?
Because I went to a pride parade, and who the fuck was it? This girl recognized my son. And she was like,
what, TikTok, the internet?
I guess because me and her are friends on Facebook.
Oh.
So like when my 2-year-old son is getting shout outs at the queer parade, but like not me.
I mean, kind of iconic in its own right, but still like a little scary. Like my mom was like so like against me like wearing nameplate necklaces because she was afraid I was gonna get abducted. But like I don't see children getting abducted at a pride parade.
No one wants kids anymore.
No, so. They don't want kids. Why would they abduct them?
Literally, I say that to my kids all the time because my daughter gets so like anxious if my son like starts wandering away. She's like, come back. And I'm like, no one's going to take him. Yeah. No one wants kids anymore. You guys are so annoying. And then people around me start like laughing and I'm just like, well, tell me you guys want them.
Yeah. No, that's my silly little joke is that like, Mom, I don't think anybody really wanted to abduct me. I very much just like screamed and was extremely annoying all of the time. So I feel like I was not a main person to be like
abducted.
They
want
grabbed.
Like smart kids with like good grades.
The kids that want to get abducted are like the kids that are like quiet and docile. I was like never docile.
Yeah, my kids are definitely not docile.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I guess like brings us to like our last like discussion point. Do you think that like people in general, or like at least like online discourse, like brain rot, you know, the talking heads of it all, do you think people take like the things with like gender and sexuality, like do you think people are taking it too seriously or not seriously enough? Like it's the whole like alphabet mafia defending my life.
I feel like it's died down a lot, if you've noticed.
It has died down a lot. A lot of people have gone back into hiding, I've noticed. Like, I don't know, I'm going back to the gay bar on New Year's to go do a gig. Yeah. But it's in Brooklyn, so that's why I'm not like there all the time. But if I was like more free and in Brooklyn, I'd be going out to the queer bars all the time because that's like my home. But sorry, I fucking.
Do I think that people are taking it serious?
Do you think people are taking it too seriously, or do you think people are actually, since people are pulling back, do you think people are not taking seriously enough? Do you think people are going into hiding? Like,
I mean, certainly people in certain states are taking it very seriously with like trying to ban things and exile people, and that's very scary. Like, I definitely don't like that. But I think that I almost feel like certain parts have to be taken seriously in order to get it to like a nice, comfortable level where it's like,
like you can live freely in the world and like not be like scared of like being queer when you want to like present in whatever way you want to. And
but I think people are always gonna,
like, there's always people that take things too far and people who don't take things too far enough.
I think just, well, everyone's under this impression that like it's really easy to like chop your kid in pieces and like put them together and stuff, and I know like that's the big fear, and like I get that, and I think that like no matter what anyone says, like topics about that does have to be spoken about, because like what do people want, and like should there be lines drawn, and like what are, because we were talking before, like some people could do things that are permanent and then like later on regret it, but I don't think it should be a tax. Like
also there's like a whole because this kind of like started, I think, more like around a little before 2012, like when there was like the legalized gay was kind of like wasn't legal to have gay marriage throughout America until 2012 during the Obama administration, when they like I don't even know if they codified it. I don't think they even codified it, but it was legal finally for the first time to be gay married all over the country. And gay married in any fucking way. So you can't turn away anybody to not legally married just for their sexual orientation and so on. With that, I found that there was a lot of people that were just like after that, the vibe became kind of jaded in this way of like, can't I just like be gay and not like be like a revolutionary about it? You know, like why is it my duty and my public prerogative to speak on behalf of a community so vast that I am merely just a small part of?
And I think what's crazy is like I was really young when all that stuff was kind of happening. But
right, we were in our teen years during that.
And but now like gay marriage is so normal, and like no one's really like fascinated by those people anymore.
To the point like where people like J.D. Vance are calling normal gays as a that still gets me.
One of my like favorite like stand-ups is by Hannah Gadsby. I don't know.
I love Hannah Gadsby.
And I love,
big fan.
She classified herself as like, where do the quiet gays go? And like the ones that are like just chilling, and like it's crazy how it was like this whole big thing, and like now it's really not that big of a deal, and like you see these gay couples like everywhere, but that's just like normal gays, and now the hot topic is like everything else, and like I feel like we're gonna get to a point where
it kind of became that again. Like I've had friends that were like, why can't I just like be casually gay and not like talk about fighting for my rights as a gay all of the time? And I've had friends that have kind of flipped that script on themselves, being like, well, you know, I'm not a like I'm a cisgender guy, but I'm not like a effeminate type of like gay male, and why do I have to be like that? And then in more recent years, I'm naming somebody. I'm talking about someone specific. They're a good friend of mine, and I'm not going to say their name on this just because I don't know if they want to be tied in with this subject, but I'm going to anyway.
Okay.
But in recent years, like they started a music project that kind of like explores like different parts of fascism and how that goes into like its influence on patriarchy, as that also like influences like cisgender couples and like just regular heteronormative couples in general. And he's a gay man, very much has been, always been, not into girls. Like I joke with him that he's my lavender marriage, and like the time came where we had to like pretend to hold hands and he couldn't do it right, and I was like, how are you gonna be my husband one day if you can't hold my hand right? What's wrong with you? We're not gonna be convincing at all, darling.
Queer people have always existed though, and I feel like it's just so amazing how we lived through the 80s where we had men like wearing women's heels. Twisted Sister, literally. Prince, Bowie, like Rolling Stones, like literally fucking everybody. But
the most
now
outwardly gay looking motherfuckers, for real. Like Kiss, they're fucking clowns, dude. Come on.
I don't understand how
they're rock and roll clowns.
But it's like all the people who were at their concerts fucking like elbowing and like with their hands up having the greatest time are the ones now.
And like, they still hating gays even though they're like worshipping men in heels.
I just don't get it. I think that I feel like I can't even like find the right way to describe it.
Yeah.
But it's just
Motley Crue was pretty gay too, even though they were like they were so like heterosexual, but their presentation was so absolutely
like gay
queer.
Men don't even dress like that now.
No.
Gay
men would never like
that's why I just like don't understand.
And if they do, it's like Sam Smith, and Sam Smith's like, yeah, I'm actually like queer now.
Yeah,
but everyone's insert like, rainbow emoji here.
Everyone's like so angry at Sam Smith. Everyone hates everything. I literally just, who was in the 80s, because it wasn't these people.
No,
like literally who was there. Like because like these are the same, like these old men now were like the teenagers like at Woodstock. Like I just don't get it. So I think they'll die off eventually, and we'll all have like dyed hair in office and septum rings. And
I know, I'm waiting for the day that I can just like go out, have purple hair again, and people can like just love it again and whatever. I'm in my like straight core era.
Straight core?
I call it. Yeah, I'm like in hiding.
Huh.
I'm not saying it's not representative of who I am. Like I make the choices that I want, but like like I was definitely like looking more queer at some point.
I also think
and
like
I went back.
There are certain things that are just like are fashion trends at the same time, like the whole like look, because like people aren't like super like dyeing their hair anymore the way they used to.
No,
and, like there's just
fashion colors are like outy right now.
Yeah, color is not super huge. Everyone kind of wants to be more like natural and
Also, it's like I feel like 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 gender performance is like really nothing more than a performance to me. Like, do you ever feel that?
Gender performance.
Yeah.
Like in what way?
Like in just like if you're feeling more masculine or more feminine in it, and it's like I tell people like my body's my art. Like I'm going to like dress and represent myself and paint my face like how I want to be perceived.
Yeah.
In the world. And like being able to have that type of control is like kind of cool a little bit. But it's like but I treat it like performance.
Yeah. So someone who made that point.
Like it's drag to me.
Yes. Like gender expression.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was telling you before about Blair White.
Yeah.
And she's like known for being a really like controversial conservative transgender woman, and she's like she makes a bunch of like hundreds and hundreds of videos about stuff like this, but she was like, I feel like there's a difference between gender expression, which is how you just express who you are, which is like fashion and you know, and then there's like transgender, and I think that there a lot of like lines are getting blurred, and then it's like pushing like transgender people aside or like kind of mixing them in with it, and like she's very firm on where she stands in like that transgender has more to do with like science and like issue like hormonal imbalances
as opposed to like a real like theatrical or entertainment based thing, which separates it. Like drag is not transgender. However, some transgender people do drag. That separation.
And she's like super interesting, and I think people like are really quick to like cast her aside and be like, oh well, she's like ignorant and intolerant and blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, I think that we should like hear everyone out. She doesn't really say anything super offensive, at least. I mean,
well, also like her opinion is her opinion. Like everyone's opinion on themselves, especially something so personal, is merely an opinion. You know, like as you know, if somebody disagrees with an opinion about themselves, it's like, okay. Like, you can have your opinion and share it if you want. It doesn't make it, like, you know, the standard. Opinions are not standard. They're merely opinions.
Have you seen that one person, they, like, go through, like, all the gender, like, pronouns? It'll be, like, frog, frogs, like, plant, like, that I don't know if I can personally take serious.
Honestly, I think the mix-up on that is just like some people like you went for Roger Bikes. Other people go for like my name is like Fern, or I mean Fern's a pretty name though.
No, Fern
I
is
know
a pretty
some
name.
chicks that are.
No, I think that like,
but some people really do. Like I know somebody, bless them, they're a very sweet person. But their chosen name is Fig.
Fig. Well, that's even. I mean, a name is like a name, but when you're gonna tell me like, well, I'm not. Like, I'm an entity orb, like, long thing. I'm like, okay. But, like...
I think there is maybe, like, an element of spiritual psychosis sometimes that, like, goes into, like, you know, being, like, kind of queer or fluid or trans in general. Like, you know, like, I don't know if you've felt like that or had an era of, like, spiritual psychosis with your gender at all.
Spiritual, well, yeah, but I don't know.
Where you're like, I'm not even really human. I'm very much like orb of God, light, divine, all knowing, beyond the boundaries.
Well, even what I can't understand, and like I will fully admit, like I really can't fully understand non-binary. Like that is just
that's a hot take
that I have never been able. I don't get it.
I
just don't. And it's not that I like necessarily am like angry at it. It doesn't keep me up at night, but like I just don't get it. A lot of people don't get it.
It's hard to explain.
And it
hard to explain. Because like I'm like I consider myself to be like more of a non-binary person slash like I guess like I describe it to people and partners as queer, and like if people want to be in a relationship with me, they have to like I don't force pronouns on anybody or anything like that, but they have to understand like why am I not like the other girls? Well, it's like, can you put two and two together?
So now,
like, sorry, you're gay.
But is non-binary floating in between? Because like the way I see it, and
I think it falls more into like, I mean, and everybody's view of themselves is different, but I would say for me personally, because I can only speak for myself, it falls into like this like, I would say like fluidity a little bit that defies like gender roles. Like I don't wake up every day and be like, time for me to girl boss and woman this and woman that, and like I go at everything very devoid of gender, and most gender doesn't really like gendered things don't really make sense to me in a way. And like I've been floating in a lot of like very like straight circles lately, where like a lot of like there's jokes and everybody around is laughing, and you know it's like just mostly media stuff I'm relating it to, and like I turn to my friends and I'm like, I don't understand why that was funny. They're like, oh, it's like a straight guy thing. I'm like, oh, okay, it's straight people shit. And then like I've had like other like queer and gay friends I like hang out with, you know, like most of my closest friends are queer, and they're like, I don't understand why this thing keeps happening, or like people keep saying this. I'm like, don't worry about it, it's not our gig, it's some straight people shit. And they're just like, I never thought about it like that. And I'm like, yeah, just write it off as straight people shit and don't even worry about it because it's not your gig.
I feel like I definitely engage in a lot of straight people shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think I get it in a way. I guess like what makes most sense to me and like how I understand stuff like that. Because there's been times where I have been angry at people who are like non-binary, because you get angry at things that you don't understand.
Of course. Yeah.
And I feel like humans almost have kind of like how I described it first, like there's like masculine and feminine energy, and it's almost like a spectrum, and we like fall in between or around and stuff like that. And some people are like really firm in one way, and those are kind of straight people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And queer people are not super firm. They're like kind of open.
Very open. And it changes over time too for people. And like, I mean, for some people, that's like a whole personality crisis for some people. I mean, for me, I describe it like as like, I've always been this way. I've like been very like I've established it and accepted myself as that way since I was 16. Like, I didn't just go on TikTok one day and be like, huh, I think I found my gender. Here it is.
Here it is.
I think I found my bisexuality on the internet. Yeah. It's like, no. I've known these two things about myself since I was 16. Maybe it's like the look of that has changed over time, and like, you know, and it's not really easily explainable. But I'm very comfortable in myself in that way, and like I did have an era of where it like really bothered me, and like I was. Regrettably, I think a little too public in a lot of ways that I didn't have to be, because the internet made me outraged that certain things were more serious than it really was, and like that I'll take full responsibility for in that way. But like I've always known this about myself, and it's not something that I'm just gonna like change or like whatever. Like if you like me, it's probably because you like these parts of me that are not in, you know, my much more straight counterparts that I obviously am not really that close with, because I mean, they can see it clear as day, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not walking around, you know, and like very, you know, like, I don't know. It's just,
it's just a vibe.
It's a vibe.
It's literally a vibe.
It's a vibe. Like, I can't explain. It's really hard to explain. Like, I can't explain it.
I get it. No, I think more than anything, it is kind of a vibe. Because when
the vibe is the vibe.
The vibe is the vibe. Because when I mean, like, even though I think the term, like, really pisses people off, I think when you do meet someone who's non-binary, like...
When you know, you know. Like, you're like, I see it, and I get it, and the vibe is the vibe.
The vibe is totally the vibe.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. It's just,
non-binary is a vibe.
It's a vibe. It's a gender expression.
Yeah.
They're just... My vibe is... I don't even know.
I think that's a great place to end this. All right, this was fabulous. Thank you so much.
Yes,
and thank you for being so open. And like, I know it's like not always like the easiest thing. You know, there's so many like unknowns and things in the air and things that could change. So it's like, I understand that it's like, you know.
Yeah.
What, you know, the way that it is. And like, I very, very much appreciate your candidness. And yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Bueno.